Chiropractors. You're losing $10,000 every single month by being too salesy. I interviewed over 250 chiropractors to find out why the salesy approach doesn't work anymore and what we can do instead. In this video, we're going to review the step-by-step approach to convert more patients and make your new patient process more authentic and genuine without sounding salesy or pushy. This will lead to improvements in your conversion percentage and thousands of extra dollars entering your practice while making way more impact. So who am I? I'm the co-founder of ChiroJump. I was actually a personal trainer and massage therapist for about 4 years, went to chiropractic school at Parker University here in Dallas, dropped out of school so that I could pursue business and help docs achieve financial freedom without sacrificing their patients' lives, their own families, or their own time freedom. At this point, we've helped over 25 docs transform their practice and have financial and time freedom. So for example, Dr. Lonnie, she went from 10 to 20K monthly collections in just 9 weeks of working together. Dr. Ryan, from 4K monthly collections to collecting $14,000 in a single day within a year of working together. Dr. Morgan, she hit her first 20K month within 10 months of opening her practice. We actually just started working together before she even saw a single patient. And so these are some of the results we're getting, docs. So let's dive in. All right, here's an overview of the perfect day 1 and day 2 process. So there's 6 steps to the first visit framework. We follow the closer framework, which that's an acronym. So we'll go through that. The C, we want to clarify why they are here. Okay, so we uncover patients' goals. We uncover why those goals even matter. We're digging into what they want, how it affects their life, and why fixing it now is important. Number 2, for the L, we're labeling their problem. We want to restate their challenge, their problem, their struggle back to them in clear terms and use the words that they use. We want them to feel heard, and we want to agree that we understand exactly what's holding them back. And so we need to understand the full picture to do so. Overview their past experiences. We want to explore what they've already tried, why it didn't work, and highlight the consequences of doing nothing so they see the need for a change. And so we're diving into, hey, how did this impact you? How did this solution work for you? Okay, you liked it, you didn't like it. Why do you feel like that was, right? And so we're reviewing what they've done. The S, we're going to sell the vacation. We're painting the picture of their desired future by connecting exam findings and your recommendations to life they truly want. And so we're tying these things together so that they realize, wait, all these things that I really want are just the other end of me actually committing to my health. Okay, cool. We can help you with that. And then at the very end of sell the vacation, we'll present the finances. After we present finances, we're going to explain away their concerns because there's going to be hesitations. There's going to be all these different things because they don't know that this is the right solution. And so we want to address these with curiosity, with empathy. We want to help patients work through the doubts so that they feel safe committing, so that they know, oh, this isn't something crazy. This is the right solution for me to actually accomplish my goals. And then once they do make that call, we reinforce that decision. We want to celebrate their choice. We want to reinforce wins and build long-term confidence in the care that you have so that they stay engaged and refer other people. So 2 action steps I have for this section before we move on. Number 1, we're going to watch the Alex Hormozi Closer Framework, and we're going to watch the Perfect for First Visit Framework. So the Alex Hormozi Closer Framework is actually not applied to chiropractic. And so you're going to watch me walk through a video with coaching some other docs on that first visit framework, walk through, okay, how do we actually apply this to chiropractic? Remember, if you want this Gamma document so that you can click these links and follow along the action steps, just click the link in the description. It'll take you to a page where we'll email it over to you. So let's talk about what we sell, care plans and services. And so there's 2 parts to what we sell. Number 1 is our care plan recommendation, which a lot of you will already have. That's okay. I would still recommend walking through these steps and seeing, hey, is there an opportunity to improve or dial up the knob on something here? Number 2 is our pricing options. Our goal. We want to recommend the level of care that makes it unreasonable for 95% of patients to not be on wellness care by the end of their number of visits, okay? There will be outliers. Yes, we will have some things where it's like this patient's been doing this for 30 years. They need something different. I totally understand that. But we want to recommend the level of care that makes it unreasonable for 95% of patients to not get to 100% of their goals, okay? The recommendation must be clear and specific. The reason I say this, and I'll paint a very clear picture here. Which situation here is easier? Okay, let's say the patient prepays for 12 visits, all right? You told them they can start with the 12 pack and reevaluate where they're at afterwards. They interpret that as you saying they will be 90% better by visit number 12. Once they get to visit number 12 and are about 50% better, at this point, you've lost some trust and rapport, right? You set an expectation in their mind and then did not deliver on it. Now you have to tell them, hey, you're going to need another 12 pack to get to 100%. And maybe in your mind, you thought it was like, hey, it's going to be 20 to 30 visits, somewhere in that range, either way. And it's totally possible that you knew in your mind that it was going to be 20, 30 visits. But the fact that you said, let's start with 12, gave them room to interpret their own idea of what's going on. Let's contrast that, right? Patient prepays for 24 visits, but they feel better after 18. You end up having to let them know that the visits they paid for will cover the next 3 to 4 months of care as they transition to 1 visit per month, right? So as they go into wellness care. People will not be upset by this, okay? Nobody is upset by realizing, hey, you already paid for 4 months more than you thought you did. Look at that, right? But people are definitely, they lose trust and rapport when you say, hey, you know how you thought that it was going to be 12, it's actually 20, actually 18. Like, you just lost rapport, okay? Pro tip, if you recommend 12 to 36 visits, people always assume they're in the top 50% of people. If you say that 50% of people are better within 20 visits, they will all assume that they're going to be better within 20 visits, okay? When in reality, 50% of them are going to be better after 20 visits, right? And so you're just leaving room up for interpretation that's going to hurt the rapport you have with some patients. As we walk through this, another thing to note is if we recommend 12 to 36 visits, patients will assume they're closer to the 12 than they are to the 36. Okay, so a patient that you were like, hey, this is something I've worked with before, you're giving them confidence in your care, but then they're going to take that as, hey, it's probably going to be 12 to 15 visits. And in your mind, you might know it's 20 to 30, right? And so when it's not better than 12 to 15, you've under-delivered. Even though you never said that, they understood that. And so their understanding of what you say matters a ton. So pro tip number 2, if you do over-recommend, you can always space out their visits to wellness sooner. That is okay. I'm not saying deliver more care than they need. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is if you over-recommend your amount of care and they pay for it, you can always space out their visits to wellness sooner. Okay, which means they've already paid for the next 3 to 4 months of care, which will look like, wow, you solved my problem faster than I thought it would. And number 2, I also have this great bonus of I've already paid for the next 4 months. Builds rapport on the other side. So to start, we're going to create one standard care plan and pricing options. We're also going to break down the principles so that you can customize it if you have a patient that needs something entirely different. Because standardized plans do not mean the care plans are cookie cutter. We are going to do whatever the patient needs in every single visit. But having some standards to the number of visits and pricing will significantly decrease your operational complexity and will significantly decrease your just mental bandwidth and mental load of what am I supposed to recommend here, because this feels like such a crazy case. In reality, you will have seen a lot of patients of vastly different degrees of issues, but you'll have a good idea of how long it takes them to get better. You should have a good idea about that. And so, like I said, we're going to shoot for 95% of patients getting 100% better. 95% of patients getting to wellness care by the end of the initial standardized care plan recommendation. So let's talk about number of visits. Let's talk about care plan length. If you don't know how many visits your care plan should be, ask yourself these questions. Number 1, how long does it take for 95% of my patients, all non-outliers basically, to resolve their initial complaint and get back to their normal life? Number 2, how many visits does it take for 95% of my patients to be ready for wellness care? Pro tip here, we want to keep in mind, we want the root cause of their initial complaint to be addressed within the treatment plan so that it doesn't come back within a couple weeks. We want this to be a permanent fix so that they're ready for wellness care. Remember that if your patients have an expectation for 24 visits and they are better in 18 visits, that is a good thing. You just over-delivered on the expectations you set. And nobody will complain when you tell them their next 3 to 4 months of wellness care is paid for. That is a good thing. So let's look at an example here. We get 95% of our patients to wellness care within 24 visits, okay? Here's some options for how you can structure your plan. You can say, hey, ideal, 3 times a week for 4 weeks, 2 times a week for 4 weeks, 1 time a week for 4 weeks, right? That equals 24. Or you could say, hey, twice a week for 12 weeks. Cool. Or you could say twice a week for 6 weeks, once a week for 12 weeks, right? There's 1,000 ways you could structure this. Important piece here, if someone can't make the availability, you can tweak your treatment plan. If 3 times a week is too much for somebody, tweak what they need to what they can do. If they're trying to space it out 1 visit a month from the beginning or 1 visit every 6 months from the beginning, they're not going to get results. But if you can still deliver results while customizing a little if they need it, we shouldn't be telling people no just because it's not optimal. As long as we're breaking down the pros and cons of both options. It might not be optimal, but hey, if that's going to get them the result in the end, then it might be worth doing. As long as we break down and have an honest conversation about that is not a bad or wrong thing to do. Next, pricing options. Why do we have multiple pricing options? Number 1, when you have a longer billing cycle, retention increases significantly. That is a big difference, okay? And so we want to find ways to get patients to pay up front for these things. They will increase their retention, not just because anything crazy, but it's because they're actually giving this thing a chance. And more than anything, I find that it's a measure for the patient commitment level. And so if they are not willing to prepay, a lot of times they just don't believe that this is the right care for them. They just don't believe that this is the solution to all their problems, or are not 100% confident in it. And so it's just a measure for the patient commitment level. If they are prepaying, then it shows that they're pretty confident this thing is going to be the right solution. And so my question is, how do we get more patients to prepay? One extra bonus with these longer billing cycles is that patients are actually going to sit down and give you a chance. They don't have to think about finances and they can justify spending money on you in the next visit. No, they're actually fully all in, giving you a chance, listening to everything you say, applying the things you're teaching them, and they are going to commit to this longer period of time. We have more opportunities to be educating them about chiropractic. And so the question becomes, how do we get more patients to actually prepay then? Patients will only prepay if these two requirements are met. Number one, they must believe that their problem is big enough to be worth the investment into their health, both financial investment and time investment. Number two, they must believe that you can actually help them solve their problem. And these happen in our consult and our ROF before we even present finances. These two things must be true before we talk a single dollar amount. If we meet these two requirements, if they believe you can help them and they believe that their problem is worth spending this amount of money on, then these pricing option makes it a no-brainer to prepay. So we're going to break down pricing options into just a few steps here. Step number one, we want to check that our pricing is high enough and update it if needed. This is a math equation, not a feeling equation. And one thing about price, there is no problem with having a price that is higher than other people around you. So often I hear docs just talking about wanting their prices, like looking at all the other docs and being afraid of increasing their price. If patients are spending this amount of money on you, then test out a higher price. If you lose all your new patients, then it's okay, we might have gone a little too far. Let's reel it back. And there's multiple ways you can do this, but easy way is adding in a more custom service where now you deliver on another thing, another modality, whatever it is, part of your package. And we see, hey, does the pricing actually affect things, right? So the way that we check if our pricing is high enough is completely through math. Okay, we're going to start with our monthly revenue goal. Let's just throw out a mock example here, but let's say our goal is to earn $25K a month. Okay, we need to find out how many visits we can see per month. Let's say you work 20 hours of adjusting time per week and you get 6 visits an hour. Okay, that's 120 visits per week. Do not include new patient hours in adjusting time, just a note. So 120 visits per week times 4.3 weeks per month is about 516 visits per month. Let's assume, and I always put this number, that you can only be 80% full on average, which, let's multiply that out, 516 visits per month times 0.8 for the utilization equals 412 visits per month that we could see. So now we divide our goal revenue by the number of visits you can see per month, right? And so if we divide this out, $25,000 a month divided by 412 visits per month is $61 per visit. Now, I want to multiply my answer by 1.2. We'll understand why in just a second here. But if we multiply by 1.2, that's $73 per visit. So as long as your price per visit is greater than 1.2 times the $61 per visit, then you can hit your goals. If it is less, then we might not be able to. There's a chance, but we're leaving it up to chance. Step 2, we're going to calculate our 3 pricing options. Okay. I always recommend having 3. Number 1, monthly, no discount on the monthly. So step 2, we're going to calculate our 3 pricing options. I recommend having 3 different options: a monthly option without a discount, a split pay option, a secret option. We don't share this option out unless, we get to them. We'll talk about when we'll share that, which is a 15% discount, and a prepay, which is a 20% discount. Pro tip here: if discounting your prices sounds crazy to you, use this hack, okay? Instead of having to decide between wanting a prepay versus getting paid your normal rates, have the prepay price be your normal rate price. If you typically charge $65 a visit and do an 18 visit plan over 3 months, have your prepay price be $65 times 18 visits at $1,170. Your monthly option, what we're going to do for that, we're going to divide that by 0.8, okay? And so that would be $1,462.50, or 3 payments of $487.50. Okay. This way, we're still collecting our normal fees while getting our optimal result. Because I don't want us to have to choose between I get the optimal retention or I get the optimal pricing. No, let's just build the perfect thing for our business where we know that we can justify delivering the highest quality care. And then after that, we can figure out, cool, how do we actually give patients options for it? Number 3, we want to clean up our numbers. So after we calculate totals, then we make the numbers look clean, right? And so I like ending on a 7 or a 9. So let's take this example, right? Our price is $80 per visit. Our recommendation is a 24 visit care plan over 4 months. That's twice a week for 6 weeks and once a week for 12 weeks. Step 1, we're going to update the pricing, and which means $80 per visit for the prepay divided by 0.8 means $100 a visit for the monthly option, right? You notice this is that 1.2, right? That is what we're basically doing right here. And remember, we multiplied it by 1.2 earlier. That was to get a quick check to see if, yes, are we over that 20% more expensive for the monthly option? Okay, step number 2, we want to calculate our 3 pricing options. 24 visits, $2,400 monthly, which is 4 payments of $600. Split pay, $20.40, which is 2 payments of $10.20. Prepay, $19.20, which is 1 payment of $19.20, right? Step number 3, clean up the numbers. So for the monthly, I went to 4 payments of $599, which is $23.96 total. For split pay, $19.98. For 2 payments of $9.99. For the prepay, I did $18.90. And so I love ending in 7s and 9s. Just seems like a more casual number. Also, when you say the numbers, you're not left with something like, hey, it's $2,400. That sounds like a lot. It sounds much less if we say $23.96. And so that's also another piece on like the psychology of the numbers. Pro tip, do not have multiple recommendation options or too many payment options. A confused buyer will not buy. They will say, I have to think about it, because you're giving them so much info. They actually need to sit down and understand what you're telling them. So we should only ever present one recommendation. What is that recommendation? We're giving them whatever is the best thing for their health. It's their optimal recommendation. That's the one we're giving. For pricing options, I only ever present 2 pricing options at any given time, because this one is an option. And so when I'm giving these 2 pricing options, I go with monthly and prepay, and we'll talk a little bit more about how we present it later. Pro tip number 2, I never allow pay-per-visit option because it shows a significant lack of commitment on the patients, right? People will use, hey, I want to do a pay-per-visit as a way of getting out of having to say, no, I'm not interested. No, I don't believe in this. People will end up no-showing their second visit and dropping off early in the care plan if you're doing this all the time. But I've looked at docs that say they have high retention, and a lot of the patients that they do have end up dropping out. And it means that they come in for like 6 to 8 visits on average. That is crazy. And so we don't want them dropping off their care plan, not because just it's hurtful to our business, but because it's hurtful to their health. So I would rather that a patient doesn't commit, but the ones that do stick with us and actually get the results, then everyone spends money and half of them end up dropping out because we didn't actually hold them accountable and support them in the way they needed support. And patients will come in, they'll spend their money, not get great results. They'll be your hardest patients to please, and you won't earn what you could, right? It ends up being a lose situation when we accept pay-per-visit. So action steps for this section. We're going to create a standard care plan recommendation. We're going to calculate the pricing of our monthly option, prepay option, and if applicable, our split pay option. Okay, I say if applicable because if you do a 2-month plan, then having a monthly and then split pay, I don't even know where you would split that. So that would be a little bit awkward. But you have monthly, prepay, and if applicable, a split pay option. If you want access to the extra videos I linked and the action steps for each section so you can get patients to fully buy into their health with simple, seamless conversations, click the link in the description. Let me know what your best email is, and I'll send over the schema doc. All right, let's talk about how we sell. These are our conversion conversations, how we run those. How we sell what we sell is the most intense portion for this whole process, but it's going to be so much simpler by following the steps in this order. So right here, we have the non-salesy conversion blueprint. Again, you can just get access to this entire doc, all the links, all the action steps, all that kind of stuff. Just click the link in the description. You'll be able to claim that. But we could literally spend weeks on conversion content, breaking down every nuance of the conversion process, right? There's a lot of stuff to cover. Instead, I want to identify the 80-20. So 20% of the work that's going to lead to 80% of the results. And so we have our conversion process principles that we're going to walk through. Next, we're going to walk through our non-salesy conversion blueprint. This is the blueprint you can actually claim and you get access to here. And that's going through an overview of the closer framework. And then third is we're going to be mastering the non-salesy conversion blueprint in 60 minutes. What would we have to do to master that in 60 minutes? And that's what we're going to be covering. So number 1, the conversion process principles. Principle number 1, if the conversation goes off track, circle back around with the next question in the framework. The great thing about having a question-based framework and not a long script is that if we go way out in the middle of nowhere, right, we're talking to this patient and somehow they get to talking about how their great aunt had this issue that, you know, you can insert whatever crazy conversations you've had. It's like, hey, thank you so much for sharing that. And then we circle back around to our next question. How do you think that's impacting you? Whatever it is. Number 2, you should only be talking 20 to 30% of the time. The other 70 to 80% should not be you talking. This should be the patient actually talking and you listening. Number 3, tone matters more than anything. And so you can either study tonality for years, or instead you can focus on just having conviction. Both will give you the same result. Having confidence and conviction that what you're recommending is the best thing for the patient to get to their goals is the easiest and the fastest way to address this. Number 4, successful chiropractors focus 90% on the patient's goals and what they want. They don't focus on how chiropractic can be the fix to their problem. They don't focus on how educating patients about how you're such an awesome person. They don't focus on going through your OPQRST or any standardized questions. They don't focus on who you are, about your business, about your product, about your goals, about your life. Patients do not care about you, your business, your product, your goals, your life. They do care about their goals. They care about their lives. They care about what they love. And so why is it that we all end up talking so much more about what we do than what they're dealing with? It makes absolutely no sense, right? And so why don't we just dive deeper into what they're struggling with and why it's important to them that they address that? How much more would patients just feel heard if you just sat down and actually spoke with them for 5 to 10 uninterrupted minutes, completely present and focused on their goals, on their problems, and at the very end, we'll talk about us a little bit, right? About 60 to 80% of decisions about somebody are shaped by an initial encounter. That means that them deciding to move forward with you or not is all shaped on us sitting down with that consult, actually having that open conversation. And so how in the world could we ignore the importance of diving really deep and getting to know a patient during their first visit? So we must ask questions so that we can get to know them. We need to get to know their goals, the problems that they have in achieving those goals, why their goals even matter to them, why they value, what they value in solutions, etc. Number 5, assumptions are the root of all failed conversations. Do not assume you understand anything. Next time you think you know the answer, again, don't assume, okay? If a patient tells you they have migraines, they can't play soccer with their kids, don't assume you know why that matters to them. Getting super tactical here. Instead, what do? We want to dive deeper. You might find that the only memories they have of their father is of them playing soccer together as a toddler, right? And they feel like they're a bad parent because they can't make those memories with their kids. How crazy would it be for us to miss this because we assumed, right? And yes, it is important to them, but if we don't get the real reason why it's so important, we're missing out on so much. And so these principles will guide us to having more effective conversations. Part number 2, our non-salesy conversion blueprint. And remember, I have a full blueprint walking through this entire thing. Again, I highly recommend checking out the full blueprint. You can actually just click this link when you're in this doc. It'll take you to it. You get full access. It's going to walk through steps A through Z of the entire conversation and how we have that. It is a 6-step process, and we're following the CLOSER framework, right? And it's an acronym, CLOSER. C, we're going to clarify why they're here, okay? Your job here isn't just to find out what hurts. We're trying to uncover what the pain really is costing them and what their goal is. So there's 3 parts to understanding a patient's goal. We need to find the what, the how, and the why. For the what, this is what the patient is actually dealing with. So for this example, it'd be like, patient has migraines. Number 2, we need to know how it's impacting their life, okay? Some docs get this. What does this mean? For our example, this would be like they're not able to play soccer with their kids, okay? The why. This one, I've yet to meet more than one doc that gets the why. Why does it matter that you can't play soccer with your kids? Because a lot of parents don't play soccer with their kids. Like, it's a very normal thing. Most parents don't play soccer with their kids. And so why is it so important that you are able to? And the why here might be that they made memories with their dad, and that's how all the memories they have with their father. And they don't feel like they're a good father because of this whole situation. And so we need to find out why this stuff even matters. We dive into why the goal is so important to them. So what's the deeper reason a patient has this goal? So here's a couple questions we ask after we find these 3 parts. Why is that goal even important to you? And we're trying to find what's the deeper reason the patient has that goal. Why is right now the right time to address this? How has the insert problem affected your work, your hobbies, your mental health, kids, marriage? So you're not able to do this. Has that been hard? That's a great way to start to get into the why. So part number 2, we're going to label their problem. Once we've uncovered their story, reflect it back to them in clear, simple words. So what I'm hearing is you're dealing with X, it's stopping you from Y, and that matters because of Z. You can insert the what, the how, and the why there. When patients do hear their own problem described better than they could describe it, trust goes through the roof. It is huge. This is where they start to believe that you understand them and that if you get them, you can help them, okay? And so it might look like, hey, what I'm hearing is you're struggling with problem and you want to accomplish goals so that you can, and we talk about the bigger reason why. So what I'm hearing is you're struggling with migraines and you really want to get rid of them so that you can get back to playing soccer with your kids. But it sounds like the real reason this really matters to you is because you want to feel like you're a good dad again. Does that sound about right? Is there anything I might be missing here? Once we've labeled their problem, we're ready for overview their past experiences. We ask what they've already tried, why it didn't work, and how their problem has evolved over time. And so we want to contrast best case, what would life look like if they fixed it, with worst case, what happens if they don't fix it? You help them see that change is necessary in this step and that your approach is the missing piece, okay? So we need to understand, cool, what are you doing right now? What have you tried? Because we don't want to pitch them on the exact same thing they've already tried, right? And so we need to have something different about what we do than the things that they've tried. Because people won't believe that you're just somehow better. They need to have something that's different. And so we ask these questions. Hey, what have you tried so far to accomplish getting rid of your migraines? How long did you do that for? How'd that work for you? Little key here, it obviously didn't work. If they're still coming in, why do you think it worked or didn't work? And this is where we'll learn a lot about, cool, they don't think the PT worked because they weren't consistent with their exercises. Awesome. Now we know that we have to pitch them on. We're going to hold you accountable to doing things, or we're going to make it really easy for you to do things so that you continue to be consistent and actually get the results. Is there anything else that you tried? You want to expose all the things that they've tried. Okay, just so I understand, why even try something new to address these migraines? Is there a reason we don't just keep doing what you've been doing? We need them to show that, hey, no, I need to change something about my actions or I'm not going to get to where I'm trying to go. They need to come to that conclusion. If they don't believe they need to change something about their actions, you will end up with people saying, hey, I'm just going to keep on trying what I'm doing and it's okay. But we need to show them, no, something needs to change. It doesn't have to be this, but something needs to change, right? Once we overview their past experiences, now they're ready. We've built up, we've showed them how big of a problem this is, how important this is to them. Now we've overviewed all the things that they tried and we showed them like, hey, the things you tried aren't getting you the results you need. And so let me show you how I can help you get there. So we move on to step 5, sell the vacation. Note here, people do not buy plane tickets for the plane flight, right? They buy them for the vacation. The same goes here. Do not just talk about adjustments or visits. We want to paint the picture of what life looks like when they're on the other side of all this pain and all this struggle. So we're tying your findings, we're tying your recommendations back to their deeper reason why, giving them that step-by-step for how your program is going to help them live the life that they want and they dream of. The goal is for them in the end to feel hope, clarity, and excitement in this step. We don't want sales pressure. And so it really is on cool. You told me all these things. This is how we're going to help you get from where you are to where you want to be in the way that you want to do it. Just a note here, the sell the vacation is the ROF. And there's 3 parts to sell the vacation. There's the recap, which includes exam, scan, review at the end of that. We have the recommendation, and then we have the finances. And we're going to break down those very specifically in just a little bit here. E, explain away their concerns. Every patient will hesitate. That is normal, whether it's money, whether it's time, skepticism. These are not objections. They're just defense mechanisms. So don't fight them. We want to get curious, like we've talked about. So how do we do this? We ask questions that pull the real reason out. Most of the time, the real issue is priorities. It's not price. Okay, if they understood what's at stake, meaning like their health, their identity, their family, their lives, the choice would already be made. Your job is to help them see that clearly. And that only comes from having these honest conversations and being authentic and genuine in them. Step number 6, reinforce their decision. The sale does not end when they say yes. It ends when they feel confident that they made the right choice. And so we want to celebrate the decision with them. Highlight early wins. Remind them of a vision they committed to. Patients who feel great about the choice do not just stay longer, they bring others with them. So reinforcing their decision creates retention, reviews, testimonials, referrals, and the referral-based practice that we want to build. And so what do we do for this? An example would be writing a welcome to the family card. You have a gift you give to new patients. People are so opposed to this, but $15 to $25 will dramatically increase retention and referrals. If you could get a referral for $25, you would never stop wanting referrals. And so we want to make gifts something that they actually want. The intention for this isn't for you to advertise their logo everywhere. I've seen this so often, but do not give a cheap t-shirt with a massive spine logo that they never wear. It's just, that's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to show them like, dang, this delivered on a way higher expectation than I even had. And so we want to show them you made the right decision doing this. How we can actually help them reinforce the decision in their first few visits. We want to show them and clearly outline expectations for, hey, this is what you can expect by visit 4. This is what you'll expect visit 8. The cool thing about this is a lot of times patients won't connect the dots for all the other health benefits they're going to receive, whether it's being happier, improved sleep, more energy, weight loss. They're not going to connect all these things to the care that you give. And so if we can set little milestones at the beginning, then we can bring those back up when those visits have happened and just ask, hey, have you experienced any of these things? You remember how I told you that you were going to experience them? Awesome. And they will start to attribute all the other results that are coming as a result of the change that they made to the thing that's making the change. And so that way they're not just by chance, oh no, I just got better on its own. No, it's give credit where credit's due, right? That this thing came about because you made a health change and because you're coming in and being consistent with your care. And so we want to make sure that we do that. Also, there's going to be an improved experience because they're like, oh my gosh, this is way better than I even considered possible. And so that's a really important piece. Another thing that we do is have specific milestones where as they go along their care plan, we can actually ask for reviews, get them to talk about the results they're getting. The more they talk about it, the better their experience or perceived experience is going to be. If they don't ever talk about it for a year, they're not going to think, like a lot of times people will just forget or not be conscious of, dang, this is where you came from. This is where you are now. It's a vastly different place. And so we forget so easily. So that's a really big piece on reinforcing their decision. Here's how you master the non-salesy conversion blueprint in 60 minutes. We got to apply 80-20 rule so you can actually do this in 60 minutes because there's a lot of content here. 80% of the results, though, are going to come from 2 sections. Clarify why they're here and sell the vacation. So if we're only going to put a few minutes into practicing, these are the 2 sections where I would recommend spending 80% of our practice time. I always work end to end when practicing conversations. Once you do know how to charge a credit card, you need to know how to ask for the credit card, right? Once you know how to ask for the credit card, then you need to learn, how do I present the finances? Once you know how to present finances, you need to know how to get them to agree to your recommendation. Once you know how to get them to agree to your recommendation, you need to learn how to recap everything that happened in the consult exam, get them back in the same mental state they were in before. I always like working back to front. So for sell the vacation, selling the vacation includes our ROF and includes our pitch, right? We start by clearly outlining, number one, the patient's current state, their goal state, and then we want to outline exactly what the gap is between those. Then afterwards, we restate the problem that's preventing them from going from their current to the goal. Once we're done with that, we identify the solution, which is our vehicle. How do our services get them from current state to their goal state? And the truth is that patients don't care about what you do. They only care about how you can help them. And say that again, patients do not care about what you do. They only care about how you can help them. Say it out loud. Give yourself a second. It is so true. So stop spending 90% of the conversation talking about your passion, which is health. Spend 90% on what they care about, which is their goals and their passions. We want to sell the result, not all the steps they need to do to get there, because all those steps just sound like work. If we're talking about traveling to Miami, we want to sell the result, not all the steps they need to do to get the result. Because if we want to talk about somebody losing weight, we don't want to talk about all the different exercise programs and the fact that they have to eat and change their whole diet and they can't eat any of the food they love anymore. And they have to eat all the food that they hate now. And it's going to be so much work. They have to get used to working out and add another hour of things to their schedule every single day. It's, oh my gosh, there's no way anyone's going to say yes to that. But if we're talking about, hey, this is the result we get, and yeah, there might be some ways we challenge you, but ultimately, here's where we're at now. Here's where we want to be. We can help you get there. You'll have a lot more people that are bought in and make that choice, and their habits will change as a result of them making that decision. And so there's 3 parts to selling the vacation. Number 1 is the recap. Number 2 is presenting the actual recommendation. Number 3 is the finances. And so let's start with the very last section here. So we'll start with the finances. We have 2 options for this program. Option number 1 is a pay-as-you-go, which is monthly payments. And so that's actually $23.96 for the entire program, which is 4 payments of $5.99. Option number 2 is a prepay. Most people actually choose this one because it comes with the 20% discount. And so that'll go down to just $19.17. Which option do you feel would be a better fit for you? It is literally that simple. And so don't overcomplicate it or delay things and say, you need to create this sheet to present all your options and it's going to take you a week to, no, just start presenting it in this way. This is all the information you should share on your sheet when you're presenting finances. We write out, this is your treatment plan. And you write what that is. So twice a week for 6 weeks, 12 visits total. Then we have a re-exam. Once a week for 12 weeks, 12 visits total. Monthly option, $23.96 or 4 payments of $5.99. Prepay option, $19.17. So simple. We actually have a doc that literally just does this and she gets almost as many conversions as like our top performing docs. Like she crushes it. And it's because she's sitting with the patient, actually walking them through the things that they're struggling with. So pro tip, be silent after we ask the question. Once we ask which option they prefer, do not say anything else. And like a little idea here, do something as you wait for them to respond. So take notes, fill out their mock visit schedule, which should be like, ask them which, before you talk about the recommendation, ask them which days and times they prefer. And if they're like, oh yeah, I prefer Mondays at afternoons and Thursday afternoons, cool. You can start building out a mock schedule and fitting it to the right times in your schedule. That way you have what their actual care plan schedule will look like. It'll help you feel less antsy. So just keeping yourself busy doing something will help you. Okay, number 1, say this stuff slowly. Saying things quickly implies that you're nervous. And so you might be nervous about the finances and the money, but the problem here is that patients aren't going to hear the nerves and think you're nervous about presenting finances. They're going to hear the nerves and take it that you're not confident about the care you're recommending. And it's going to show that you lack some kind of conviction. And that's what we don't want. Number 2, pause between sentences. Pausing is so natural. It is a very natural thing to do. It lets people actually soak in the differences between the pricing, and it shows a ton of confidence. They need to understand what you're saying. So let's not rush through it. So a couple places where I recommend pausing in between every single line here. So we have 2 options for this program. Pause. It is X payments at price. Pause. Option number 2 is a prepay. Most people choose it. That'll go down to this price. Pause. Which option do you feel like could be a better fit for you? And then you're waiting for them to answer. Cool. Or $19.99. Say $19.99. Do not say $1,999. Okay. That sounds like a much larger number. That's why we've changed it to $19.99 from $2,000. But you're offering an insanely great deal. You're giving a ton of value at a great price. So we don't want it to feel like this is a massive number. No, we want it to feel like it's a complete no-brainer in the way we present it. This is actually a really big key. Number 4, only present the monthly and prepay to start. We want to present the monthly first. That anchors the price. So do monthly first. Present the monthly total and then present how much it is for each payment for the monthly. This makes the prepay feel like such a great deal because you're getting a discount for taking the second option. If you do present the prepay first, you were saying, hey, it's going to be $1,000 if you pay today. But if you don't have enough to pay today and now you have to pay in 4 payments, we're actually going to increase the price on you because you don't have enough money. It just doesn't sound genuine. And so it's going to feel like they're getting charged more because you have to split payments. We don't want people feeling that way. We want people to feel like it's a benefit to being able to pay early, not a penalty for not being able to pay. So section 2, the recommendation. This comes right before the finances. In the recommendation, we share 1 to 3 bullets about what you do. We want to connect this to how it's going to address the root cause that you outlined and help them address the bigger reason why it's important to them. And so this is how it might sound. So what I'd recommend for you is a 12-week program with 24 visits. In this program, we have 3 pillars that make us successful. So pillar number 1 is, and you'll talk about what the first pillar is, which might be something like symptoms. We tie the pillar points after we say that into what they said they wanted, struggle with. And so you continue with that accountability and support example. You might say, and so we're going to do the things that need to be done to hold you accountable to doing the actions you need to do so that you can get the results you said you want to achieve. And this is also that you can become the mom you want to be. And so, of course, fill this in with as much personal stuff as you can. But this is the overall framework for how I would word this. At the very end of each pillar, we should have a story or an analogy to break beliefs. We use that if needed. If they feel like they don't understand or they don't quite get it, have some kind of story. And so for this, it might be accountability. We might talk about, Alex really talks about brushing his teeth example of how most kids don't want to do that. They said, no, you're doing it anyways. And then you started doing it. And then fast forward 10 years. And what are you doing? Do you brush your teeth? Yes. Okay, cool. It's a great example of accountability turning into a habit, right? And then at the very end of each pillar, I always ask, does this all make sense? I want to make sure I check in with them throughout the entire process so that we can answer any questions or make sure that, hey, they are actually tracking. There's no purpose to doing this if they're not following along. That's the whole purpose of this. The recommendation principles. This should be 3 minutes long max. If it is longer than that, we're probably diving into way too many details or specifics that are just not relevant to them deciding to move forward or not. Number 2, the recommendation is literally a pitch. It's how we can help them get to their goal. Remember, patients don't care about what you do. They only care about how you can help them. So everything you talk about should tie into the what, the how, and the why. It should feel like a completely personalized pitch every single time. We want them to understand the weight of the problem that they have and position what we do as the perfect solution to address that problem. By customizing to what they've told us, they will feel heard. They're going to feel cared for, and they're going to feel like you actually have context to be recommending the care that you're recommending. It comes off in a completely different way if we help them feel like, hey, no, we're with you in this journey. Number 3, do not pitch patients on it. Only pitch patients on what they've said. We don't talk about the things they haven't agreed are problems. This is only going to confuse them. Also, they may not agree that those things are real problems or viable solutions. This only hurts rapport and decreases the likelihood that they say yes. Example, let's say you do nutrition on the side, but you haven't talked at all about it. The patient hates all food plans. There's limiting beliefs here. They will never like what they eat. If you pitch them on nutrition without breaking these beliefs or without knowing this, they will no longer believe that this is the absolute best fit. And they may still decide to move forward and say that I'm not doing that, but they're not going to believe that it is the best fit, perfect program for them. And so we don't want to talk about that. That might be a part of what we do. But if we haven't talked about it yet, don't bring it up in the pitch. Okay. Next section. People will buy from you if you can describe their pain and what they're going through better than they can describe it themselves. This is an extremely important step, okay? Especially if we're doing a day 2 ROF. In our consult, we get our patients dive into all this depth about their problem, about how it's affecting them and how important it is for them to solve it. We need to take them back to that place and remind them everything that they shared about how important it is to find a solution to their problem. So we want to follow this guide step by step. Your recap will touch on all the main points if you do that. So just to recap, make sure we're on the same page. You've been dealing with migraines and it's been stopping you from being able to play soccer with your son. And it sounds like the biggest thing is that these are the memories that you had with your dad was playing soccer with him. So you feel like you haven't been able to be the father you want to be. Does that sound about right? Or is there anything I might be missing? And it sounds like on top of that, the real goal is to be able to be a good father and is to be confident that you're making memories that are going to stay with him for the rest of his life. But you haven't been able to do that because these migraines have been stopping you and you've tried these 80 things and it's just been getting worse. Does that sound about right? Or is there anything I might be missing here? And then after that, we'll probably choose one of these next 2 options. Number 1, why do you even feel like this might even be worth looking for help fixing this outside of what you're currently doing right now? That's number 1. That's if they're doing something and it's not working. If it is working, it's, hey, why do you feel like it might even be worth looking for help fixing this when you've been dealing with it successfully for so long? And so we're trying to get them to explain why they need to change what they're doing. Because if they don't need to change what they're doing, why would we even present them with a recommendation? They need to share like, hey, I'm not getting the results that I want to get, or I don't like the way that I'm going about getting those results. I don't like. And so here's some principles for the recap. We want to use the same words they use to describe what they're going through. So don't just start changing it up, like literally use the words that they use. Principle number 2, prep beforehand. So easy to beat most people. Nobody preps. Because you can use this framework and your consult is on day 1, if it is, literally write your entire day 2 script for each patient beforehand. Okay, you can literally write this entire thing out and read it word for word, right? Your confidence, your conversions are going to increase dramatically because you're actually putting the time and attention into making this a personalized pitch dramatically. Your whole day 2 could be scripted beforehand, and it would be so much easier, so much less stressful if you knew exactly what you were going to say line by line, even if it's just a list of bullet points on what you're going to be talking about. Okay, section number 2 that we're going to be practicing is they clarify why they're here. Your number 1 job in this step is to uncover the patient's true goal. Most docs stop at the surface. Patient says, I have migraines. The doc thinks, got it, they want to get rid of migraine, right? That is so wrong. Assumptions kill conversations. We need to ask questions to get to the deeper goal the patient has. The migraine is not the goal. It is the obstacle. It's the problem. The real goal is how the migraine is affecting their life and why it matters. They feel like they're not able to be the type of father they want to be because they're not able to make memories with their kids in the way they dreamt of. Feeling like you're a good dad and making the memories you always dreamt of, that's a goal. That's a big goal. And so peel back the onion, ask, dig deeper, clarify, right? Every layer that we're pulling back gets us closer to what actually matters to our patients. And here's the key. We really only need to uncover 3 things. Number 1, what is the problem? Number 2, how it's affecting their life. Number 3, why it matters that they fix it now. If we nail those 3, the rest of the conversation gets 10 times easier. And so what is the patient dealing with? This is their chief complaint. It's the surface level problem, right? Back pain, migraines, sciatica, knee injury, whatever brought them in. Keep it simple. Just identify what is physically going wrong in their body. And here's our examples. Number 2, how is it affecting their life? This is where you go deeper. Symptoms matter, but what matters more is the impact on their life, right? About 50% of chiros get the answer to this question. And so some examples, they can't play soccer with their grandkids. They used to be a runner, now they can't even jog. They keep missing work or calling in sick. They feel distracted and short-tempered with their spouse, right? The how makes it personal. It moves the conversation from, hey, I have this pain, but hey, this pain is actually stealing my life. It's putting me in a place that really matters that I get out of. Now the why. Why does this even matter? This is where everything clicks. Most people don't actually care about getting rid of pain. They care about what the pain is actually costing them. The why is the difference between someone saying, hey, I'll think about it, and somebody pulling out their card and being like, okay, I'm ready to go, prepay it. And I've yet to meet a chiro that consistently gets the answer to this question. Literally not a single doc I've spoken to consistently gets to the why the patient truly needs to make a change. And this is typically tied to their identity or the things they hold most important. Some examples, because if I can't pick up my kids now, what happens when they're fully grown and I miss those years? Because running isn't just cardio for me, it's my identity, right? It's how I clear my head, feel alive. Because if I can't stay healthy, I can't provide for my family, and that terrifies me. There's emotion involved in these examples. The why is what turns the backache, the migraine, the sciatic pain, whatever it is, into a threat to their identity, right? It transforms these migraines into lost moments with their kids. It's no longer about just the symptom that I could push through. It's about who they are and what they want to be. Because I'll push through a headache, but I'm not going to push through and risk all these memories with my kids. And so when you nail the why, patients stop seeing care as a cost and start seeing it as the only way to get their life back. And this isn't like some kind of crazy sales tactic. They feel this way deeper beneath the surface. I'm not implanting these ideas into their mind or telling them they have to feel this way. No, if they don't mind that they can't make these memories with their kids, that is by all means, they can choose to do what they want to do. But what does matter is me actually showing them like, hey, you know how you've been feeling depressed and anxious and stressed and you don't feel like you already feel these emotions. You just haven't connected them to why you feel them. And so let's just connect the dots so we know what the pros and cons of actually fixing this problem are and what this thing is actually costing us, so we know, is it worth it to actually fix this problem? We might find that it is really worth it. We might find that it's not. And so that's what we're having, a genuine, authentic conversation in this way. So action steps: practice the non-salesy conversion blueprint for 15 minutes a day. Linked it right here. Number 2, play the question game with the team member or with GPT voice. So you can literally just input the script and give it ideas and start talking to GPT voice, and you can walk through the question game. What is the question game? All this means that you're only allowed to ask questions to get the what, the how, and the why from a mock patient. No statements. You're only allowed to ask questions, and you need to get the what, the how, the why. So have them come up with a mock patient of the what, the how, the why. Have them play different varieties of difficulties. And then you just walk through the conversation. You start to learn what kind of questions you need to ask in order to get these answers of why they need to make a change now, how to overcome like what things that they've struggled with. And it's just amazing practice as far as just learning the types of questions and having these things just pop in your head when you're actually having a conversation. Also, a little side note, don't be afraid if like your conversations with everyone outside of practice also transform in amazing ways and you start actually communicating way better, because this will happen as you learn how to ask questions and build those relationships with deeper questions. Confronting limiting beliefs. This is another section that could take years to master. So I actually outlined some of the most common obstacles and objections here. Real quick before we dive in. So difference between obstacles and objections. So the obstacle comes before the finances. It's usually belief, fear, uncertainty that surfaces while you're presenting the plan. A lot of times patients are just like, I don't know if this is going to work for me. I don't know if it's different enough from the things I've tried in the past and so forth. Objection. This comes after we present the finances. It is the stated reason why they hesitate after seeing the numbers, right? I can't afford it as an example, but a lot of the times patients still have other unanswered questions, other unanswered hesitations outside of just the finances. It just when they have to make the decision. Just a note, it is far easier to overcome an obstacle than it is to overcome an objection. And so if we can pre-handle a lot of these objections, we can actually have that fluid, authentic conversation without money being involved, which money just complicates everything. Obstacles and objections are not bad. Okay, they are the moment of truth. They show that the patient is taking your recommendation seriously enough to wrestle with it. One thing that I see so many docs doing is not wanting to have these conversations. If you never help a patient walk through uncertainty or doubt, you are actively choosing not to help them. If you know something they don't and you have confidence in your care in a way that they don't, and you choose not to help, that's not on them. That's on you. They're putting their trust in you to have these hard conversations. That's why they're in your practice in the first place. So often, people say they have certain priorities and goals, but their actions don't line up with their goals. You are the expert in the room. So it is your job to have the hard conversations, call those things out in a kind way. Okay, the kind way is a key here. And ultimately, they get to pick how to approach their health. But if they have fears, it's important to show them the pros and cons of both options, right? All we're doing is saying, hey, this is where you're at. This is where your goal is. This is the problem with getting there, right? And this is a solution for how we're going to take you from where you're at to where you want to be, okay? And with that said, if there's fears about using that solution or fears about whether it's going to work for them or whether it's worth it, that's when we just have to sit in the conversation and help them discover, cool, here are the pros to doing what we've been doing. Here's the pros to doing something different. Here's the cons to both options. We just have to break down the pros and cons of doing what we're doing right now and the pros and cons of doing something different and what the change in life is going to be like. Ultimately, they get to pick how to approach their health. What does this actually mean? This means we're being completely genuine and authentic. Don't shy away and choose not to help the patient just because it's uncomfortable. If a surgeon did that and said, hey, I'm not going to talk about the heart surgery because I don't know if they can afford it, I'm uncomfortable talking about price, they would be sued for malpractice. And so we shouldn't either. We should hold ourselves to the same level of standards so that we're respected in the same way because we're willing to have the hard conversations with people that nobody wants to have. All right, obstacle overcome and objection handle principles. These are the principles that we need to have in order to have these authentic, genuine conversations. Do not feel salesy, okay? And number one, have childlike curiosity. Do not meet resistance or questions with pressure, okay? Meet it with curiosity. Instead of defending yourself on why your prices are what they are, we just want to be gentle, ask open-ended questions like, hey, what do you mean by that? Oh, why do you feel that way? Objections are just unanswered questions, right? And so curiosity it serves as a real question so you can answer it. And so we can only give the information if we know what information they need in order to make the right decision. And so it happens by us asking genuine questions and having that childlike curiosity. And so when a child asks you a question, right? Sometimes children ask the craziest questions and they get you to repeat yourself so many times, but they're really trying to process the thoughts and you never get upset with that. Why is that? It's because they're genuinely just curious, right? And so we want to mimic that curiosity and show like, hey, no, I want to understand your point of view. Maybe I don't understand it. The odds are you do because you've had this conversation so many times, but maybe you don't. And so we want to lead with that level of curiosity. And a lot of times their reasoning and rationale will break up over time because they just haven't really thought this through. Number two, explain away concerns. Oftentimes patients are making statements that sound like objections, but are really just incomplete thoughts. Your job is to ask clarifying questions that shrink the concern back down to size. Oftentimes the concerns make absolutely no sense. Hey, I don't know if I can commit to 90 days of this. Totally understand. I know you mentioned surgery is the other option. Was that rehab on that really short? And this is like, people are just not thinking through that. I can't commit to 90 days, but I'm about to commit to 6 months of rehab. Great. There's a discrepancy here that just doesn't make sense. They haven't thought this through. And so we might find I'm not 100% confident this is going to work. And so if I have to have surgery after 90 days and then another 6 months, and then it's okay. So the issue isn't the 90 days. The issue is now, and we get the real answer, is they don't believe that this is going to be the right solution for them. Number three, separate the real issue from the surface issue. Most stated objections are surface level. Money, time, spouse. Beneath the surface, the real reason is often belief. Do they believe this will work for them? Do I believe this will work for me? Do I believe the doctor can help me? Do I believe I'm worth the investment? Do I believe that the investment is worth it for what it's going to change in my life? Okay. And so a lot of times I can't afford it. We address that by just saying, hey, thank you for being so honest. I have a question and please don't worry about my feelings. Finances aside, do you think that this plan will actually work for you? If they say yes, then cool. It might actually be a financial objection. You can step down or create some kind of way to get around that financial objection, whether it's another payment plan or whatever else. If they say no, the finances aside, I wouldn't do it, it might still be a belief objection. And so we need to anchor them in with proof, outcomes, and confidence. We need to understand what is the real objection and then hone in on that and help explain away their fears. Number 4, lead with empathy, not ego. And so we never want to argue, okay? We always want to agree first. And we're not agreeing that they're right, because a lot of times they're not going to be, but we are agreeing that their opinions and their feelings are valid. Hey, I totally understand. That makes so much sense. I hear you. Like these things, it helps me feel like, okay, you're actually paying attention. You're not just trying to combat me and come against the things I'm saying. And so afterwards, we reframe with a question or perspective that opens a new door. Okay, an example. Hey, I need to think about it. Of course, I'd expect you to think carefully about your health. Just curious, what specifically do you want more time to think? What information could I give you to help you think through this process? What's most on your mind right now that you really need to think about? And so we ask these questions as ways to try and understand what is it they're really thinking about. And so this is such a big piece. We want to lead with empathy, not with ego. Okay, have some humility. All right, action steps for this section. We want to review the obstacle overcomes and objection handles portion of the non-salesy conversion blueprint. I linked it right here. Number 2, review and practice the AAA framework to learn how we handle all questions that patients ask us and why we handle it that way. There's a full YouTube video walking through this from Alex Ramosi. 3, watch this video for more info on the AAA framework. So let's go take on these 3 action steps. Now you know exactly how to get patients chasing you down to commit to their health goals without ever sounding salesy or pushy. But here's the thing. This was just an overview. I put together this Gamma doc with the full action steps plus extra training videos for each section. That way you can actually start plugging this into your patient process now. Chiropractors who have used it are already closing more plans and making more impact. Patients are thanking them for it. Just click the link in the description, let me know your best email, and I'll send the Gamma doc straight to you. Your very next day 1 or day 2 could be the one that pays for it 10 times over.